Choices. Ah, clearly they're still a thing, right? Hello, welcome to Wargaming. In this video I'm going to be discussing getting started in Age of Sigmar and starting your first army. Now the things I'm going to cover are things that I myself found helpful and have used when selecting a new force, meaning not only are these tips great for someone just entering the hobby, but anyone wanting to start a new project. And although these series of videos are aimed at Age of Sigmar, I feel a lot can be carried over to 40k or any other game system for that matter. Before we get right into it, let's discuss the different types of hobbyists that are out there. Now, you may fall into one of these categories, or you may fall into multiple ones on different levels, or you might find yourself in a whole new category. But for this video, we're going to focus on what I consider the main two types of hobbyists: the gamers and the painters. Now remember, you can and probably do fall into both of these categories, but at different levels. For example, I consider myself to be in both categories, but around 60% painter and 40% gamer. My point is that everyone's different.
But Dad, I'm new. How do I know if painting or gaming is my sort of thing?
Well, Timmy, that's where we break down these two categories further. So, with products like Contrast from Citadel and Speed Paints from the Army Painter, even the most novice hobbyist can create some fantastic results super fast. And the plethora of tutorials out there to get the most out of these hobby products is amazing, so check all those out on YouTube. Obviously, you can make life a little harder for yourself, but I think just using contrast paints and the like are a great way to start and allow you to add layer paints and use other techniques as you improve. Another thing to consider is army or miniature selection. Some armies or models don't really lend themselves very well to new hobbyists or those wanting an easier life when painting. I think armies like Sylvaneth, Nighthaunt and Stormcast Eternals are great first armies for a painter, as they allow you to achieve great results very quickly using contrast paints, washes and dry brushing. These are all great techniques that you can use on these armies, make them look really cool, and they're great tools to have in your arsenal regardless. Now, some hobbyists enjoy painting one-off single miniatures rather than whole armies. These hobbyists usually fall into the side of painter that on our sort of scale. Most of what we've already talked about can still be applied, but I'd give two pieces of advice for anyone looking for their first single mini to paint. The first being, make sure it's a mini that calls to you aesthetically and gets your creative juices flowing, and the second thing is maybe try and pick one that has less intricate details. There's a lot of miniatures around now and the detail is getting crazy, so if it's your first one, maybe try looking for one that's slightly simpler. There really is so much to talk about regarding painting and modelling in this hobby, from glazing, wet blends and feathering to sculpting and converting, but I think that's best left for another video. I think the thing to take away from this as a first-time collector and painter is do the research. YouTube has a vast library of how-to videos and tutorials. It's hard to go wrong, but I would definitely do some research on the different armies available, see what sort of draws you in and what you like the look of. Really have a look at the whole range, consider the armies, consider their complexity, and weigh it up to your skill level at that particular time. That's not to say don't start an army that's considered complex, but do be aware that it may require more time, patience and skill to achieve the desired outcome. Now on to gaming. In general, you have competitive gaming and casual gaming. As a new player, I would start with the latter, until you've mastered the basics. But what is casual gaming? It's a great question, and it can mean different things to different people. But the way I take it is that casual gaming, you know, it can be many things, but ultimately it's a way to play as a pure fun aspect to it. It's at the forefront, from playing narrative games where you can create your own backstories, to taking silly army lists, not using the most competitive units in the game, taking units for no other reason than that you like them, or as Rich would say, they look pretty. Casual gaming is the best way to learn the ropes and to learn what your army does. You can just grab models that you have and start epic battles, even if it's one-sided, 2,000 points versus 1,000, but that's the fun. Throw your toy soldiers into the thick of it and roll some dice. It will ultimately help you find who you are as a hobbyist. Also, do you want it more competitive? This will help you decide. Now, there's a common misconception that match play is competitive play. This couldn't be further from the truth. Match play is just a way to play that keeps the game more balanced and keeps sides even. Match play, using the most current GHB or General's Handbook if you will, is just what is commonly used for events and tournaments. The GHB will also run through seasons every 6 months and changes the match play rule set for that season. This will include updates and new and revised battle plans. The GHB is also the most common way to play, whether competitive at tournaments or casual with pizza, beer, with mates. It seems to be a good way to incorporate casual laid back play with an element of balance and structure into the game. So now on to picking an army. Now obviously you can just browse online or in your local hobby store and start an army purely on aesthetics, or anything you like the look of, and there's nothing wrong with that. After all, rule number 1 is to pick something that calls to you, that draws you in and gets you excited to start the project. There can, however, be other factors to consider. One factor could be cost. Now, like with most hobbies, Warhammer is expensive, but there are things you can consider and do to keep costs down. You could look into the second-hand market, so armies like Crawlboys, Stormcast, Eternals and Nighthaunt are all good choices here. There's a lot of new stuff, as when I say new, it's second-hand, but it's new on the sprue in the market, and there's, you know, second-hand built and painted stuff. It's readily available out there. These were all part of sort of like, at one point they were included in starter sets and magazine series, so you can find a lot of it readily available, quite cheap, and like I say, sometimes still on the sprue where people have wanted one half of a box set and are selling the rest. So those 3 are good examples where you can keep your costs down. Costs can also be kept down by shopping around a bit. Now, Element Games, for example, are a great one-stop shop full of all your favourite hobby goodies. They have fantastic discounts, and if you check the description, there's an affiliate link. By using this, you can support the channel while saving on your hobby goodies. So there's a bit of promotion there. Just click, I'll give you a couple of seconds. Have you not clicked the link yet? Why don't you click the link, then we'll come back. Lastly, look at army sets. Things like Start Collectings or Vanguard boxes are excellent ways to start a force. They're sort of, I'd say they're not quite readily built little forces. Some of the models in there are questionable how they work together, but the idea is they're a little bundle with a saving, and it's a good way to get started in an army for beginners. Another thing to consider is army aesthetics. Now, I know we've already touched on this briefly, but if you're new and maybe you're a beginner painter, it may be an idea to avoid armies that like to incorporate a large amount of intricate details. I'd say armies like Hydenets of Slaanesh, Disciples of Tzeentch and Soulblight Gravelords have quite a lot of details in their miniatures across the range, whereas Sylvaneth, Stormcast and Nighthaunt are a lot more basic in their design and a good first choice for painters. Competitive gaming is another consideration. I'm not going to go into much detail here, as I don't think it's a good way to start into the hobby, but if you did want to venture into competitive gaming, your best bet is to look online and here on YouTube. There are a lot of great content creators out there making videos on the current meta. even Warhammer's own YouTube channel do a meta watch video periodically. Do be aware that an army or unit that is performing well 1 minute may not another, with FAQs and erratas, rules updates and other armies getting updates, and with FAQs it can be very hard to keep on top of what is hot at that particular moment. This can be costly, having to buy new models as the meta changes. There are so many armies to choose from and so many factors to consider when choosing an army. We really are spoilt for choice. From Cities of Sigmar, Daughters of Cain, Fireslayers, Ideneth Deepkin, Caradron Overlords, Lumineth Realm Lords, Seraphon, Stormcast Eternals and Sylvaneth, to the Chaos forces of Beasts of Chaos, Blades of Khorne, Disciples of Tzeentch, Ideneth Slanesh, Magikin of Nurgle, Skaven and Slaves of Darkness. If you like to start your games already dead, or thereabouts, you could go with the Nighthaunt, Flesh Eater Courts, Ocelot Bone Reapers and Soulblight Gravelords. Or if you just want to smash stuff up, there's always the Aurat War clans, which include things like Cruel Boys and things like that, Gloomspite Gits, Sons of Behemoth and Ogre Moor tribes. When choosing an army from this huge list, I think it's best to do your research. Try to discover what you want out of your hobby and which armies are going to fulfill your end goals. Look into the miniature ranges, the backstories and the lore, watch battle reports and ask other hobbyists for their input. So there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful in picking your first army, or a new army for that matter. I think I covered everything. If you think I've missed anything, then please do leave it in the comments. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts. What do you look for in an army? What are your favourite armies? Things like that. What was your first army? That's always a good place to start. So yeah, I hope you like this video. I'll be doing another video in the series. I'm not sure what that'll be yet, but watch this space. I'm sure I'll announce it. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps and is much appreciated. And until next time, everyone, happy hobby.
You do know Games Workshop accent, right?
They did what with them?